doing. I don't know if you watched our own YouTube videos.
I haven't watched I think the last one or the one before. Yeah. Yeah, it's been oh,
It's not that
what was
interesting, right?
I don't know if you're like me. Yeah, like where it's like when you create content and then you hear back your voice, there's always some level of like you just don't like it as
I
much.
understand.
Yeah.
I don't like I think we talked about this before. I remember telling you, was like, I don't like the voice of the podcast of myself. I don't like it. I can't accept. I just don't find there's a good hook, or I just can't stand myself listening. I'm okay listening to you while you go on and ramble on whatever we're talking about. I just can't talk. I just can't tolerate myself.
Well, I'm like the opposite. I'm like,
You're the
oh, I'm
opposite.
fine with it. But I think because there is something like when we hear ourselves through our own ears and stuff like that, like when we speak, like currently, like it sounds way different than what it sounds like when you hear it off of a video. So like there's something. I think there was some like sort of like research or something around it where yeah, it's so much different.
Right.
Um, between the two, and that's why we get kind of like annoyed or we don't like it because it doesn't sound like it's us or I don't know,
It doesn't
something
sound
like
what
that.
we think it is. It sounds like we hear it here versus what others perceive it as. I guess
100%.
that makes sense. I guess that does make sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, now we've got the whole hour to talk about ourselves, and then we can actually talk about stuff that's actually useful. But yeah, it's been what, how many weeks now? It's actually just been 2 weeks since we last spoke. How I know you went down to see your mother
Yeah.
out in the island, so that was nice. Fans who's been following your Instagram, if not, we see you still were maintaining pretty active. You were at the gym, pretty nice gym, and then you were on a good couple of trails that you were on a walk. So yeah, share that experience with us.
Yeah, no, it was good. Like, yeah, I kind of set up that trip a little bit earlier this year, and like, yeah, my mom lives in Parksville, so it's super nice out there. There's like a lot of beaches on the ocean. There's a lot of nice hiking trails. So we kind of toured around. Uh, there's some good go karts there too. I'm a sucker for go karts, especially the fast ones. So that was a lot of fun, and yeah, just did some hiking. As for like actual training, like I kept my training routine pretty much the exact same. I always find with vacations, just getting them in the morning is very useful because then it's like you don't have to worry about doing it after all the activities you do that day, or like you're more likely to kind of brush it off or skip it later on in the day. I find, especially when it comes to vacations. So I'm like, okay, get up in the morning, have my coffee, have a quick snack, go to the gym, and then once I'm done that, kind of do whatever. Still had to work a little bit while I was down there, just with like checking some client messages, but I try to not do as much like social media content when I'm on vacation and try to stay off of it as much as I can, just to kind of get a nice break from it. But no, it was good, man. My weight, I was expecting my weight to be up a little bit coming back, but it's still on a really good trajectory. Um, like I'm like 179 or 179 when I weighed myself this morning, and like I'm still not even 10 pounds up from stage weight. So like things have been nice and gradually increasing. I did notice when I was out there with all the activity, I was a little bit hungrier. And like with some homemade cooking and with eating out, I was loosely guesstimating. I'm bad for kind of overestimating sometimes, like to probably more than I should to be on the safe side. But it definitely helps when it comes to yeah making sure this recovery phase goes as planned. Yeah.
That's been quite a bit. It's been almost a month since your last show. Was it like May?
I think it's been like 6 weeks. It's probably
Has
been
it?
a month and a half, or maybe even I think it's either six. Yeah, I think
Oh
it's
yeah,
six
May
weeks.
17th. That was the show. Yeah, it's July now. 6 weeks since the Kelowna show. I can forget the dates. Uh, and you're sitting just slightly just below 10 pounds from stage weight, I'm sorry. Then so it's yeah, you're right. It's been a very gradual state. Are you technically just trying to stay within this range throughout the summer to maintain the physique as quote unquote lean, or are you just going at a very slow pace, gradually building up back into an off-season body weight?
I'm just doing it at a slower pace because since like this last competition season, I didn't quite get as lean because I was just doing men's physique. But I kind of did bodybuilding too. So I wasn't quite having the same extreme symptoms after the show. So I figured I could do this recovery phase at a slower pace. Like I feel like right now I'm pretty much fully recovered. Like appetite is still certain during certain days creeps up a little bit, but it's extremely more manageable than it was like a couple like 3 to 4 weeks post show where it was still quite elevated. So like I think probably give it another couple weeks and I'll be like 100% fully recovered. And then I can slow down that rate even more. Like I've been gaining probably about a pound, just over a pound per week during this recovery phase, which I generally recommend with my athletes too, to kind of get up to a healthy body fat relatively quickly, but try not to like go so quickly where you're gaining like 4 or 5 pounds a week and you're up like 30 pounds in a month. Like we don't want to do that. But yeah, I've slowed down the rate this time. Like last time I did this, I would be probably 20 pounds up right now, back in 2023. So this time around, yeah, I'm literally like half that. And it was just giving me a longer runway during the off season to slowly build up and gain like 2 pounds per month kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't want to say that my recovery sort of started after Kelowna. So I started feeding quite aggressively leading into the Edmonton show. And it's been 5 or 4 weeks after Kelowna before the Edmonton show. And I was already feeding into that show quite a lot, like 3,000 calories in, almost
Nice.
4 or 5 days
Yeah.
a week. Then, so recovery for me just felt a lot quicker after the Edmonton show. It's been, what, 3 weeks since the Edmonton show. I'm already, I would say, 2 kilos. So that's already 10 pounds, almost 10. Wait, is that 10 pounds? Yeah, around 10 pounds or less above my stage weight that we weighed 62 point something kilos on the show day morning. And I'm sitting pretty comfortably here. Appetite's fairly normal, not as big as it used to be during my peak off season. But yeah, again, just I think that very similar aspect as you. I'm just slowly trying to build the calories up, slowly trying to recover the appetite as what I was 2023, 2024. That was my peak season when I was up to like 70, 71 kilos. That was a like pretty high appetite. I was eating like 3,500 calories a day. Now I'm not quite there yet, just slight of 3,000 calories a day. So just slowly getting there. Body composition wise, and not as lean, of course, but still pretty damn lean. Just be knowing my knowing my under my body composition, which leads us to talk about what we want to talk about today. Finally, now we're gonna start off with ourselves, and as we always like to talk about ourselves for a big half of the show before we talk about stuff that's always important. But let's get into it for today's show. First of all, welcome, guys. I didn't say that for back another episode. Here, we want to talk a little bit about our genetics and how important it is in the bodybuilding community. Then understand that natural bodybuilding has its limitations. So genetic will play a bit of a role, rather enhanced or a natural bodybuilder. However, let's talk about our own genetics, and then we'll probably dive a little bit on other influencers or other bodybuilders who'd be really, really interesting. So let's talk about you first. We always want to talk about you. Now, I'm just looking online. So if you guys want to see, just go ahead and go to Google and search for Brandon Emsley. You'll find him on Google under photos. You'll find plenty of photos of himself, selfies and stuff like that. So let's talk about you first.
Okay.
Now,
So,
so just to assess for your physique. Now, everybody's very built very differently. What would you say what would you say structurally your physique will actually look like? I'll let you do the honors in assessing yourself.
Yeah, so like structurally, like I'd say I have like pretty decent genetics, like especially in like the abs. Like they just work out really well. They're very symmetrical. Um, I've never had a hard time building them. They've always been very dense. But yeah, from a shoulder width standpoint, I feel like I'm not like super wide. With like my clavicles, like I feel like I have pretty average like clavicle lengths, and then my waist is probably a little bit wider than what you generally want for like a bodybuilder competitor. Um, so yeah, I would say like abdominals, like my rectus abdominis muscles are very well developed. They've always been like a genetic strong suit for me. I would say like shoulders are pretty solid for me, especially like that anterior delt. I've always never had an issue growing that, but I think it's because of the way I used to train, where I was very shoulder dominant with a lot of my pressing.
Mhm.
Um, and then
Let's talk about
yeah,
your
in terms of
back.
my back, I would say back is pretty good. Same thing though. Like I feel like I can get some pretty good density with it, but I don't have that same width as some of those guys on stage with their like very wide shoulders that really emphasize that taper. So I feel like I have a decent amount of muscle back there,
Mhm.
but it doesn't give quite as much of a taper as I've seen in a lot of individuals. Um, but I think that could be due to like the slightly wider waist also playing into that. If my waist was or my hip bones were a little bit tighter in, I would get more of that taper. But yeah, so I would definitely say that like my arms, my shoulders are a pretty big strong suit. Back's pretty solid too, just not quite as wide as some of the guys. And then legs, I feel like legs have taken me so long to build up, but they're still because I feel like with my quads, especially on like that sweep area, I feel like my tendon is a little bit longer or something, or just the way it's inserted with my quad muscle.
Sorry,
It's a
what
little bit
muscle are you
higher
talking
up.
about? I missed it.
So I'm trying to think of the one that's lateral, like the vastus
VL?
lateralis. Uh, yeah, I think
Yeah, so
vastus
I'm looking
lateralis.
at your just looking at your shot from WMF Kelowna where you're doing a side tricep extended with your legs straight. We can actually see here. I'm gonna put the picture up if you're watching on YouTube. So if you're just listening, just check it out or YouTube as well. I put a picture up of him on the screen here. So you can see from the knee and into his QL, there's this big gap between his patella and his insertion of his VL. But then your VL actually runs out pretty well right into your IC. I don't know that. I forgot that. So the iliac the iliac crest.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, you do have a pretty high insertion for your VL.
Yeah. And that's what makes me like it's tough because if I have shorts that come down that cover that portion,
Yeah.
people are like always like, "Oh man, your legs are so small." And it's like, well, man, like if I just pull it up a little bit, you can see it more. But yeah, it's tough for bodybuilding. Just yeah, because it does kind of give off a little bit of a smaller leg from like front lax or my front relaxed pose and stuff like that. So like I like to specifically try to target that sweep. I know it's very hard to like bias just your vastus lateralis muscle. I know there's a little bit of research with, I believe, step ups and like leg press. I think might bias a little bit more than something like a leg extension. But yeah, I think it's pretty hard to really just bias the sweep.
There's no way. I mean, if your genetics are like that, if your tendon is there, you can't grow your tendon. Your muscle
Yeah,
belly is just there. So
yeah.
yeah, so
Like there'll always be that gap, but like I'm
it
thinking if I
always be there.
can
Yeah.
make
So
it a
there's just
little
no
bit
way
wider,
around it. What would you say about your calves?
yeah, calves are definitely not not a strong suit. But yeah, like it's I
You
feel
got
like
pretty
they're
decent
one
calves,
muscle.
no?
They're okay, but they're one muscle group that I feel like haven't really improved a lot
Yeah, you're not
since
the
I
only one.
yeah, since I've been bodybuilding. Like I think that's another one that I gotta really try to emphasize on, especially for competing as a pro, because like if it's super close, right? They're gonna look at those calves, and if they're not there, then yeah, you could be placed down one, right? So
It's okay. But I mean, from just your men's physique back pose, from just looking back at Kelowna. Now, let's just talk a little bit about what you mentioned before, your chest or your clavicle wise. I agree with some of the things that you did mention. Your anterior delts are very, very well developed. And I think you suffer something very close to what another influencer that we may talk about is your chest is not as dominant as the rest of your body. We're not sure if it's just the length of your clavicle or it's just how your muscles like to be built. The chest is a little bit more flatter compared to the rest of the body. Yes, your abs are extremely dominant. Your obliques are extremely dominant. Your lats actually are pretty well developed too. It kind of wraps around into the front, so you can actually see your lats actually pop up and around into your serratus, which is very rare. You've got a lot of very good detail in your back. It comes out, it pops out at us. Your insertion for your lats are actually quite high. So there's this big gap between your hip into the bottom of your lats, which pops out, which is very, very nice. It gives a lot of detail under your rear delts, and your traps actually pop up at us a lot. Calves are pretty decent, so I would say your back pose is one of your stronger suits as well as your side pose for men's physique. So that's pretty much what I have to basically assess
I
your
would say
arms.
like
Yeah,
with the post like I posted up when I had my arms like no hand on hip, I feel like that looks so much better for me. But then when I do put that hand on hip, I think with just that a little bit of tightness in the shoulder, probably tightness in like the external rotator cuff muscles, that it kind of folds over a little bit. Like I did notice when I looked at the photos, like it just doesn't look quite as um, symmetrical when I have that hand on hip. I guess most people it doesn't look perfectly symmetrical,
yeah.
but that's definitely one that I got to work on and just make sure that I can get those lats up, get those delts to pop. Because like my I feel like my delts pop so much more when I can have them both up like that. But when I have that one hand on hip, that shoulder just starts to fade away a little bit.
Yeah, it's normal because once you took that one hand on hip, it messes up your shoulder from your left and right arm, and that's kind of how it messes it up.
Yeah,
That's also
100%.
the hardest part in YWMBF once you have one hand on hip. It could be a lot of other reasons as well, but that's one of the things that it's hard to pull off. That's going back to pretty much that's your physique, and from what we talked about for men's physique, then and what the criteria is. I mean, criteria is one thing, but looking at it as a whole is probably another. I would say that you will have, pretty elite genetics for this sport. I would consider you having the pretty good genetics in one thing. At least your clavicles are not like extremely tiny, extremely short, that you have very narrow shoulders. And yeah, I guess the only thing that you might be right is about your torso might just be a little bit wider, but it's not the end of the world. You'll still be able to pull off a pretty good taper. But yeah,
I think with a slight twist too, I find sometimes it works well, but I know when we were practicing the day before, like sometimes it almost seems like my lats don't pop as much if I have too much of that twist. So
yeah.
it's always a fine balance with it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you do a pretty good job in hiding that stuff, and I think this is something that we want to talk about is posing is also one way of I wouldn't say hide away from your weaknesses, but it definitely can help in creating an illusion that your weaknesses aren't really there through a lot of practice in posing. That's also why we preach it quite a bit. Now, I'm almost the exact opposite from what you are. So the photos came back, by the way, from Edmonton, and I'm actually
Nice.
quite happy with it. Yeah, I'm actually quite. I haven't posted. I didn't got a chance to post about it, but then I'm pretty happy with it about the whole package that we brought to Edmonton. Definitely a lot fuller. Now, I'm the exact opposite, meaning that I don't have as much mass in the midsection. However, the thing is, like, I have one of the comments was I have a very good shoulder to waist ratio, so the taper is pretty good.
Yeah,
I just don't have a lot of depth. So chest wise, I think I struggle. Same thing as you. I don't have the longest clavicle. It pops out width wise quite a bit for me. So the only thing I struggle with is just a lot of depth in my body. And I have
yeah.
no traps. My calves and my traps and my arms are the three major components that actually never grow. They're very, very stubborn. Arms were always one of the, since 2022, that was always one of the weaknesses. And calves they said they were okay. And then they could do a little bit. I think calves everybody struggles with. Like all dudes that I know they struggle with the calves, like the most self-conscious thing ever. I think my lats don't, they go pretty low into my butt. So I have a harder time actually building that depth and that detail when I hit my back post. My rear delts are huge,
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's just poor training technique or it's just genetically grown that way.
Because man, like your taper from the back is insane though. Like it goes like, especially with your waist being so small, like that taper is like really, really good on you from the back. Like, yeah, if you can get some more density with like your lats and everything, um, I think that's gonna really, really show for you on the pro stage, man.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. My legs. Let's not talk about that. Um,
I
then
don't think I've actually ever seen you like. Have you hit like a front relax pose and side relax and like side chest pose? I don't know if I've
I
ever seen
have.
you.
I just don't do it on
Okay,
camera.
because I feel like your legs aren't like for like your whole proportion. I feel like they're not like super small compared to like your upper body and stuff. Like I feel like I don't know. Like I haven't seen like all the photos and stuff like with doing like front double bi, back double bi, but I would be curious to see how it flows.
Yeah, in the future.
Yeah, are you gonna do classic now? Like, you just gotta hop in for classic
Let's
doing
see. Let's see. Yeah, yeah, because I was pretty happy to place second for Opens men's physique, and that actually caught me by surprise. That having just zero expectations that we talked about last time. Um, but I am curious to see if I will be able to place well in Opens men's physique first before really putting on those tiny trunks. There is one weakness about my legs is actually not only my legs, but my entire body is all my tendons are super long. You can
yeah,
just tell by my biceps, the extreme gap between my elbows and the
yeah,
peak of my biceps. So all my tendons are like that. My calves, my quads, my adductors even. So when I have a longer board shorts, it's like I never trained legs before.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so
that makes sense.
those are some of the unfortunate things that I
I
have.
know with for me, like if I have my feet more flared out, I can kind of almost
Hide it.
hide that gap a little bit with the quad,
Yeah,
with the knee kind of angled out.
yeah, I have
And
to do
then I
that
know
too.
with biceps too, like I have a bit of a gap there, but if you kind of point in a little bit, you can kind of hide that gap with your biceps. So see that now, if
Three
you
fingers in there.
yeah, oh jeez, yeah, like I got two.
Three fingers.
Yeah, if you rotate in like that, how does it like if you
And then I
rotate
have
just
no
put your
bicep.
hand? Oh, okay. How if you have your wrist pointing straight forward? I just want to see. It's not bad.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah,
tiny.
yeah, but
Yeah, well, mass is going to be something that we'll continue to actually work on. Uh,
yeah,
but obviously, between me and you, I think you will have a more the visual signs of sort of quote unquote elite genetics compared to what I have. Longer torso for me, shorter limbs. Actually, I have shorter legs. My arms actually a little bit longer than my legs are
yeah.
in
Interesting.
proportion. So maybe I'm built differently for another for another sport. Who knows?
I think isn't swimming the one where you want really long arms and like a
Yeah,
shorter legs? Yeah,
yeah. So maybe I'll try that. I
yeah.
might find success that way.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So between me and you, we've done quite a bit of our genetic and our genetic limitations. But let's talk about who has like very good genetics. Like we could talk about other bodybuilders if you have in mind. We have talked about influencers who's like got really elite genetics.
Yeah. Well, the
Do you
guy
have
that
anybody in
won
mind?
the guy, what's the name of the guy that won the WNBF Worlds in bodybuilding this past year? Do you
I mean,
remember his
last year, or
name?
not this year. Worlds, right?
Or I guess yeah, it would have been last year because it happens in what, November,
2024.
right?
Yeah,
So
so this year hasn't happened yet.
yeah, so last year because like there was he was
I know
just
his name is
so
Brian, but I don't know what's Brian what. Brian DaCosta.
no, I think that was the guy, but the year before the guy last year. I don't even know how you pronounce that. It's Niang, like this guy here.
Nang? Wait, where are you showing me?
Just on here. Can you see that?
Oh,
That
okay.
guy. Yeah, he like I would say for genetics, like he has like the top of the top, kind of like Ronnie Coleman genetics. Like you could probably compare him to like a natural Ronnie Coleman. Because I know when Ronnie Coleman first started competing, he was natty and everybody thought he was enhanced. And then when he started taking stuff, then he just freaking blew up.
Yeah, yeah, you can see he's got very elite genetics. I don't want to make it racist and call it a race thing. But he's got very thick, dense muscles. He's got very long clavicles. Yeah, he's got the whole package. His upper and lower body just balances up very, very nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, like
Nice
it's
thick
crazy.
back for him
He
too.
has such a small waist, such a yeah wide clavicles, but he's got like tree trunks for legs. His chest is very full. Like a lot of times when you see guys, like a lot of guys will have like the very wide clavicles, but sometimes their chest won't be quite as big, but they'll have big delts. But like for him, it's just there's so much balance with his physique that it's just yeah, it's unreal, man. Like it's crazy to see
Yeah,
that
I
much.
can't pronounce his name either, so I
Yeah.
have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's a really good specimen on what we talk about on having really elite genetics. But let's talk a little bit about more other well-known influencers that I would say the majority of population will know. First up on the list is David Lade. Are you
Oh yeah.
familiar with David Lade?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So David Lade, yeah, what would you say his physique would be?
I'm gonna actually pull up a picture of him just so I can.
You know,
I know the guy. Like he's got really good midsection. And he's got like that crazy taper.
yeah,
I'm just trying to pull it up so I can.
yeah. So
Because he was a
he's
really
got a
big.
very,
Was
very
he
tiny
too
waist, yeah.
big? Yeah. Yeah. Very tiny waist. Really good genetics. Really good chest. I've never. I don't know if I've actually seen his legs. Have you seen his legs before?
No, but let me pull up some pictures. So David Lade, let's see, let's look. Yeah, I would say his legs are. Oh, he's got. If we look at this picture right here, well, I'm just looking at this picture from his Instagram. He's also got he's got like tiny bit longer tendons on his lower body, and his abductors are also just like mine. They're relatively high.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would say that his legs or his body type is very similar to the more skinny and leaner type. He's got very wide. He's got a really tiny waist, so his ribs are just tiny and he managed to have a really long clavicle, so his waist and shoulder ratio is insane. I would say his legs and upper body does match. He's not, overly skinny legs. He does train them, but yeah, this is another I think a really good specimen on what we say of really good genetic. He's a very tall, usually has like longer limbs, but maybe he's an exception.
Yeah. Like I think for him, like in like if he was to compete, I don't know if he's actually ever competed. I don't remember hearing him
I don't
compete
remember
before.
either.
But
Yeah,
I feel like men's physique, he's got like a really good taper for.
he
Like
does.
I would say bodybuilding or classic physique, he'd probably still do
He'll
quite
do
well in
well.
the
Yeah, he'll do well in
amateurs.
classic physique. But I
And
think, yeah, you're right. I think men's physique is definitely something right down his alley.
yeah, yeah,
So that's probably one of them. David Lade is a really good specimen. Jeff said, oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
just said,
not Jeff
yeah,
said a very similar body type as David Lade, I would say, but he's much thicker.
yeah. Because I think he tried doing classic recently. Like, did you see the videos of him competing? I think they were pretty recent, like a couple months ago
Yeah,
in classic. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I would say he fits the criteria. I would say he does fit the criteria of classic physique. I would I would say that he did a lot of like really good development over the past years in his off season when he didn't compete. I think he's put on a good decent amount of mass. Um, I would say he does it with his shape and with his tendons and his muscle bellies. I think he does well. He will do well in both categories. Now, I wouldn't say his chest is flatter, but I would say his chest is not as dominant as David Lade. So
Yeah,
between the two of them, I would much prefer the whole structure of David Lade
yeah.
from, a very impressive muscle gain from skinny base. Him, I don't think I don't think Jeff said has come from a skinny base. I wouldn't say so. I think he's more of a very similar body type as you. So you've
Yeah,
got, yeah,
he's kind of like that typical like jock in high school where he's got like a decent amount of size, like just from doing like sports. Like for me, like I was actually quite skinny when I first started, but like I responded really well
yeah.
to training like in the first couple of years, and then it started to slow down quite rapidly. But yeah, I think yeah he's quite similar to, from that standpoint.
Yeah, because he doesn't have like super long tendons. It's typical mesomorph, I would say, for Jeff said.
I think another thing too with having extremely wide like clavicles is that like your pecs are going to have to go out across like a larger surface area. So to have a big chest, like you need like more muscle in that area versus somebody that has like a very small clavicle. Like I feel like they generally have like a pretty dense chest just because like there's it's such a short area that muscle is in. So like even if you don't have much, it kind of pops out a bit more. Whereas
Mhm.
if you have like a very long clavicle, like there's a longer distance between the insertion and the origin, I find, especially with like super tall people, right? Like for them to add a lot of muscle, it takes them the time to like really add that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's another thing that's it's good to have very wide clavicles, but I feel like it does take a little bit more time to fully fill out your chest.
Yeah. So what would you say the like those two I think those two that we just talked about, David Lade and Jeff said, I think they're more we started from the skinny base and then I think Jeff said I think would you still consider him to be more of a skinny base or would you consider him as more of a medium one?
He would probably be still slightly on that skinnier side, just because I find most people that generally, if they don't work out, they're quite skinny. Like it's very hard for them to put on. Like you can put on muscle, but it's very hard to put on like a lot of body fat as well. Like you for I feel like a lot of us when we are starting on the skinny side, eating is usually the issue for putting on muscle. It's not really like the training. Like we usually like especially if we're training consistently.
Yeah.
We're able to push hard and stuff, but it's just getting enough food in to create that surplus to continue adding more tissue.
Yeah.
That's usually the hardest thing. Whereas individuals that there's like individuals that have the opposite where like they can put on weight like super easy. They generally put on muscle quite easy too, but when it comes to taking off the body fat, that's a little bit more difficult for them. Their body fights a little bit more since they have that kind of higher body fat set point. So there's always that positives and negatives of both sides.
Yeah, which really brings up to our next contender. It's very difficult for us to our body to respond on where we want the muscles to actually grow. So our next contestant here, not contestant, our next guy is Tristan Lee. And he's pretty much, not lean year round. He's got a very competitive physique at a very young age. I think it was like what, 15, 16-year old. Now,
Yeah,
just by looking at his physique, he's working with I think Jared Feather now, and he's put on like a good amount of size. And Greg 2 Second made a video on him, his transformation within like a very short 10 months, which we're not going to talk about. But I think the one of the bigger things on him is he's just naturally got a very flat chest. Would you consider him elite genetics or
yeah, like because like yeah, like he holds a very lean physique. Like year round. Even when he was bulking, like it didn't look like he put on like that much body fat during even his bulk.
yeah,
But yeah, I think he's definitely a hyper responder when it comes to muscle growth. Like he can gain a lot of muscle compared to like the average individual. They probably would gain maybe like half the amount of muscle
Yeah.
that he can put on. Um, but he is also smaller, so like the origin and the insertions are a lot closer. So a lot of times these individuals that are shorter and stockier, they tend to just look very dense, and that's why you see a lot of these bodybuilders on the IFBB stage, or like they're actually quite short. Like
Yeah.
if you stand next to them, like they're shorter, I would say, than like the average person. So like, but they're so wide and so thick and so dense. So I think there's an advantage just from a standpoint of just having that density when you are on that shorter side, just due to those muscle insertions and origins being so much closer together. Um, I think he's kind of one of those individuals. Like if he was to like hop on gear and like try to compete as an IFBB pro, like I feel like he would probably be able to get extremely dense.
Yeah, it's just the thickness of his chest just wouldn't grow. Sides are just gonna look just a tiny bit weaker. It's quite larger as well. Um, so for sure, I would say his, men's physique is definitely not really up his alley.
Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, bodybuilding, or I'm not sure about classic physique. I think bodybuilding would be something that he'll fit better with. He's got like a very thick and huge back, which I think
yeah.
that's his very strong. So his legs are very, very well developed. His arms, his delts, and everything is just his chest is just very stubborn.
It's likely, yeah, a genetic thing for him. Like I wonder, I haven't really seen him train too much, but yeah, he's under Jeff, um,
Jared Feather,
not
yeah.
Jeff, Jordan Feather. Yeah,
Oh, he managed to accomplish that pretty well by himself just during those bro training. And then I think over the past year or year and a half, he joined the team RP and he made very significant changes with just a good tempo training and just very basic things that we consider we do natural bodybuilding wise. We just the quality of every rep, load management, volume management, and just the technique wise, and he made some significant improvements. So yeah, good for him.
one thing too that I noticed with RPE or RP, um, is with their chest training, they really encourage like an extreme arch with the back and trying to pump the chest up as much as like humanly possible. I do notice because what I've been doing lately, like I think we chatted about this a couple podcasts ago, is just having a flatter back when pressing, and like keeping the ribs slightly down and more stable. Um, and I've been noticing my chest has been getting a lot more sore than usual. But I used to train chest the same way that they kind of promote it, with trying to arch as much as you can, pull shoulder blades as far back as you can, and really focus on just getting as much of a range of motion as possible at the bottom. And like I found that doing it the way I'm doing currently, like especially um, at, closer to like my sternum, like I've noticed like I've been getting a lot more sore here
Yeah.
compared to in like more of the um, the attachment to your humerus. Like I've been getting quite a sore like in that range, in that portion of my fibers. So like that's where I'm thinking, like if I'm the way I'm training right now, I don't know if it's actually possible to actually. Well, I think because wasn't there some research on like training in the lengthened position may cause greater growth in the distal and then the proximal? Like I keep getting those ones mixed up. Is distal the one that's
Distal is
further
like,
away?
yeah, distal is this one. Proximal
Yeah.
is
Okay. Yeah. So like the short bias stuff would say they theorize that it may cause more hypertrophy, more proximal, whereas like training in a longer length may cause more hypertrophy in more distal fibers. So like that's where I'm thinking, like if the way I'm training right now, if it's leading to a bit more of a short and biased um, range of motion, which may potentially create a little bit more thickness closer to the sternum. This is all just like a theory, but like I don't know if that's something that you you've ever thought about, or
Yes, yes. So I sort of listened to a very similar research they were talking about, but it's not for the chest. There's very little research for just upper body, just due to the muscles are smaller and there's just a lot more other muscles that take part in it. So they did it for the hamstrings.
yeah,
And the hamstrings one I think is what I listened to is where the lengthened versus the shortened part of it. And they saw much more growth at lengthened for but yeah, you're right. For the distal version of the lengthened of the hamstring, they saw a little bit more growth. And that's why they were talking about the seated leg curl and the lying leg curl differences. And what RDL was doing and what was the point of the RDL. And that was the article that I was listening to. But yeah, then you're right. The concept, the theory of the lengthened is more distal. That creates more tension there. And that's what I think was a very similar
yeah.
uh, training aspect.
Because I think with like same with the lats, like, they haven't done any tests really on the
No, not for
lats
the
or the
lats. No.
pecs. I don't think even for the
Bicep,
delts.
yes. Bicep,
I know
tricep,
they
they
did
have.
the
It's yeah.
yeah the biceps, the triceps. I believe they have. I don't think they have for the delts,
No.
or
There's
maybe
yeah, there's
actually no.
just
I
too
think they
much
might
there.
have. I think they might have done one for the delts with like the making it more lengthened versus like the just a regular dumbbell, and they show that
Was it
they're.
the bench press one?
I think there was one on cable ladder raises versus dumbbell ladder raises, and they found the same muscle hypertrophy. I don't know
Yeah.
if they checked like the region of the delt where they saw more growth,
The one by
or
Menno?
if it was just in the same area. But yeah, I
Yeah,
would
I
have
think
to
it's the
look
one by
into that
Menno.
more.
What?
I would have to look into that more. But what
Yeah,
were
it's
you
okay.
saying?
Yeah, I think it's the one by Menno. I think. I can't be 100% sure. Then I just remember RP was just talking about that it was just harder, like where the tension was higher between the dumbbell and the cable lateral raise. I think it's just the profile differences, I think. And then at the end of the day, they just tell you, oh, you guys just go do both. Let's talk about one more genetic freak.
Okay.
Somebody very dear to us, Will Tennyson.
Uh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
man.
let's talk about him.
He's one dense dude. Like I think he's one of those guys that just like to put on muscle isn't as much of an issue.
Yeah.
It's more pulling off the body fat. It requires a greater degree of discipline just due to his legs just taking their sweet time for the body fat to come off and like the suffering required to get his legs very conditioned. I see that in a lot of people, like even like Tappy, like he has so much density, but it seems like the legs, like especially in like the glutes and hamstring area, it just requires like a more significant amount of effort to get that last little bit off, which for most people it does require a lot of effort. But I do notice with some really big dense guys, especially if they're more what you what is that? My brain is not working today because you got your ectomorph, you got your mesomorph.
Mesomorph,
Is it the
and you've got
mesomorph?
your
Is like the
yeah,
jaw? Yeah.
endomorph.
Is the isn't the endomorph like the people that are just they like I know like these um things aren't like proven or anything, but the endomorph isn't that the person that's like naturally more like has a higher
Thick.
body fat level?
Yeah.
There's like three different ones, right? The
Ecto is
mesomorph,
me.
yeah,
Ecto is the skinny me, and then there's mesomorph, which is you, and then there's the endomorph, who's the thick one.
yeah, yeah, because they generally, I find they don't quote unquote. They would say like don't build as much muscle. They hold on to more body fat. But I do find the mesomorphs sometimes to get extremely to the elite conditioning have a harder time, but the ectomorphs can get to the elite level conditioning a little bit easier,
Yeah,
though they don't have as much density. So yeah, like it's always interesting. But if you're the quote unquote endomorph, which I don't think that's like you can change what you are kind of in a way like if somebody was quite overweight, you can get to a point where you look more like a mesomorph, right? So um, I would say don't base your training off of or your dieting and all that based off of which one you are, right? So
I agree. And honestly, for Will, I got a privilege to see him in person at the Vancouver show. I would say he's a taller dude, and he's like what I think he's your height, what 6 foot or 6'1" or something like that.
Yeah.
he's rather thick. He's got very full muscle bellies. I would say his tendons aren't that long. I can't say they're not that long. They're very similar to yours. He's actually got a very similar body type as yours.
Okay.
I would say he's just taller.
He's big.
Yeah, and he's bigger. He's somehow I think it's just his clavicles are just longer, and so his chest and delts are just it just pops out a little bit wider. But I think mass wise, I don't think you're really that much different from him.
Well, do you know how much he was on stage for
No.
body weight?
He did
Okay.
talk about it. I don't remember. He talked about it on his on the YouTube. I think it was like 170-ish pounds. I think. So he's a very similar body weight as when you did.
Okay. I still think if I was to compete against him, he would still destroy me.
Yeah, I would say from the back pose, I think you guys are very competitive on both. His back pose is also one of his stronger suits.
Yeah.
Now, this was only his first time. I think over a period of time, if he got more practice, got on stage more with more stage experience, I think yeah, you'll have a challenge. But I think what otherwise he's got very full muscle bellies, lower body and his upper body. His upper body is just his chest is just it pops out so much naturally. And I think that's a really good advantage that he has, that it builds his shoulder and waist, that X frame is just built so much better.
Yeah.
So I would consider him to have an insane aesthetic frame, very impressive X frame. Not he doesn't really have a lot of those long limbs that usually tall guys have to go through. But yeah, that's something that I would say he's one fine specimen.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the thing. I think with more experience in like going through a prep and stuff, and like he gets his legs completely peeled, like he'll be like I think he'll do well even at like the world stage, man. Like,
Oh yeah.
it just yeah, he just gotta. But it's that's one thing about getting that condition. Like even for me, like I've gotten quite conditioned where I've got like faint glute striations, but nothing like dug out. And I know like the suffering required to get to really dug out glutes is something that it takes experience, time, slowly getting there over time, and it's usually not going to happen in your first one or two preps. It's going to probably take like 5 years of competing to be able to get to those levels.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So what would you say that now we've talked about like very good genetics as we talked about a couple of those case studies, and then we've talked about, not so great genetics and some flaws that we struggle with. Do you think you can out train our sort of bad genetics?
I think you can slowly make them look less bad. So like well like again like I don't think necessarily you have like terrible genetics, man. I think it's just like from a like muscle like how much muscle mass your body can hold or like your ability to put on muscle. Like that's where I think your genetics probably aren't quite as good. But like your actual frame, like you have very good balance with your physique. You have a very good V taper with men's physique. Like if you just simply can add more tissue to that, I think you'll do very well. Um, but yeah, in terms of changing, like I've seen a lot of guys with very thick hips for compete men's physique and still be able to do quite well just by manipulating posing and just continuing to add to their delts, to their lats, and to really just continue to emphasize it. I do think if like you're trying to be at the top of the top, like the pro stage, world stage, like poor genetics, unfortunately, you're probably not going to get to that level. I do think if you have poor genetics, there's still a possibility of getting a pro card. Like even like Steve Hall, like he doesn't have the best genetics, but he's got the work ethic. I think he's been training for about a decade, maybe even longer now as well. And like he's been super consistent with it, trains really hard, progressive overload. He gets really into the research with his podcast and the amount of knowledge he has. Like he's continuing to try to improve, and he's made substantial changes even with not the best genetics. So I do think you can, even with like poor genetics, still get to a pretty decent level in natural bodybuilding. It's just I don't think you'll ever be the top of the top with poor genetics, just because there's going to be the guy at the top of the top that works just as hard, that his diet's on point, his training's on point, So there's just no way that you're going to be able to beat somebody like that.
So how would you say that if everybody's doing the same thing, everybody's training hard, everybody's dieting hard, so anybody who stands on steps on stage will go through the same thing. What would you know your, say quote unquote genetic ceiling is?
So, and that's one thing that it's very hard to know when you hit it because, like, so many people out there, especially guys that are taking steroids, like, oh, like you only can gain muscle for like 3 years naturally, and then you hit your limits, you might as well hop on. It's like that's not the case. Like you see it time after time, especially with like Team 3DMJ, with Steve Hall, with all of these guys where they're still adding tissue, though. Yeah, it's 100% going to slow down. Um, but I've never actually seen it hit. Like even with Jeff Albert's, like I don't know, maybe this year when he competes, he might not look quite as good. Like he might be getting like that top tier, or might have slightly ducked under again. But like there's so many things that you can do. So like did Jeff Alberts train completely optimal, like do everything in his possible power? Like he was stuck with a very, very long time. He's like so it's I don't know. It's so hard to know. Like it's almost impossible to know if you've actually hit your genetic ceiling. So yeah, you can maybe theorize that like you're getting close, but I don't know. I don't think it's like possible to know.
You're absolutely right. And 3DMJ, I think even especially the Jeff Alberts, he talked about it a lot. He talks about it in most of the podcasts that they produce in 3DMJ. He's been training for what, 30, 40 years now? His first bodybuilding show when he was very young in his early, like mid 20s or late 20s is his first bodybuilding. And he's still competing until now. He's what, 50 something now?
Yeah, I think he's like 54 or something like that. Yeah.
So well into 30 years of competing, my math. But then, and he still says like I think there was one episode when Jeff and Eric and I don't know who else they were talking, and then they were saying that he maybe hasn't reached his genetic ceiling because you'll never know. But you will peak. Your body will peak at a certain age. Uh, when you step on stage, and you might not do well in that particular show in your peak, but it varies every single show. So I think you made a really good point is a lot of individuals who wants to buy time and they don't want to put 30 years of their life into bodybuilding just to reach potentially their peak and they just hop on PEDs. Now there's something that I probably will bring up if they do hop on PEDs, will that erase the genetic disadvantage? No.
No, no, yeah,
Exactly.
you're still gonna have the same structure. You're still gonna have probably the same, or like, so somebody if they don't have like the best response to training, some people are like hyper responders, some people are like low responders to resistance training. If you're a low responder to resistance training and you hop on gear, you're likely gonna still be a low responder to the gear. So you might just look like an average or like one of like get closer to like what an average natural bodybuilder looks like when you are hopping on gear. So I don't think that's a good idea if you're going based off, oh, okay, I have poor genetics, I'm just gonna hop on steroids, then I'm gonna look like Mr. Olympia. Like that's not going to happen. And like, yeah, to even get an IFBB pro cord, especially if you're not putting in as much work and you're just thinking gear is gonna give you it, like that's not gonna happen. So a lot of people try to take that shortcut. And usually the people, especially the ones that just start training and they try to hop on gear right away, they're the ones that don't have these habits built yet. They're the ones that don't really understand muscle growth or understand nutrition, understand proper like sleep hygiene and all this stuff. So they take this gear, and a lot of these guys look worse than a lot of natural bodybuilders. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, it just blows my mind sometimes with
Yeah,
how some people
I
just want to
agree.
take that shortcut. Yeah.
But then here's another subjective matter. I know the answer is probably does depend on the individual. But now let's just shy away from bodybuilding first because bodybuilding is something that we majority we talk about and we actually did touch base a lot on if hopping on PEDs just to achieve a a better outcome on the stage if it's worth chasing. Now we've talked about this before, so we're not gonna go into that. But would you think if it's worth hopping on gear just to chase a dream physique? But that you can't possibly achieve naturally. So meaning that you're let's say a beach body, but with just more mass. You're not
Yeah.
really hopping a lot of gear just to step on stage, but you just want to chase a physique that you know it's not naturally possible for you.
Yeah. Like my thoughts around that. Like I still think like give it a shot, like naturally see like try to do all the things right first and just like see because like a lot of times you'll get a lot further than you think you can if you just start doing the right things and do the right habits. Because like if you don't like if say you think oh like steroids is going to be the thing to get you to like this physique that you want, a lot of times the physique when you say for example even if you get that physique that you want but then like your health tanks a little bit because of like the steroids that you're using you have other side effects. Like it's like getting to that physique isn't going to be the thing that just makes you happy all of a sudden. Like there's usually something oh you want a little bit more like you get to that physique and oh that physique's no longer good enough you want something better and then it just spirals into taking more and more stuff. But like with steroids like there is still some level of work that you have to do to build that physique. Like there is some research showing that even if you take steroids and not do anything you'll gain muscle. Um, and especially in like hyper responders to it. But like that's still probably only going to get you to like the average looking gym physique if you're taking steroids and not working out. Like it's if you want to get to like that amazing physique, like or like not amazing, but like a kind of a good beach level physique, there's still going to be some effort required from your nutrition, from your training to get there.
Yeah, that's definitely so. In other words, we're just saying that the work is the same. Um, I would even say that the work is much harder if you are even on PEDs. It's much, much harder than you can do naturally. Naturally, we still have a little bit more leeway because we're doing this naturally. We can have the option in, uh, let's say, dieting a little bit more flexibly. We get exposure to a lot more different micronutrients and macronutrients. When you're on PEDs, you're really putting your body through a very harsh time. So your nutrition has got to be even more sharp. You have to take care of your body even more. So there's going to be a lot of supplementation there. There's going to be your diet's going to have to be even more sharper. So there's a lot of limitations on food choices if you don't want to mess up your body. There's also acne and there's also this other downsides to it. Now, I'm not saying that you have to hop on like a whole shit ton of gear. Some gears are just have a very minimal effect, as you say, is who depending on if you're a fast responder or a slow responder. Now you're gonna have to test that out. But in other words, what we're saying is naturally you have a lot more leeway, and there's a time frame. Now, for natural bodybuilding, there is almost no end on how far you can actually take your body. You can see Jeff Alberts, he's a very good example. He's doing it for 30 plus years now, and he's still doing it, and he's still growing. You can see a little bit more growth every single, probably year or even 2 years. So maybe what would say your advice would be if someone were to quote unquote test their body naturally, what's a good time frame?
To like see how like when you would hit your like limit, like when you would
Or
get
your
close
your
to
gains will probably slow down.
yeah. So I would say like the first 5 years you're going to be making like the most progress, 100% in terms of muscle growth. After that, you'll get some diminishing returns where it's just gonna start to slow down over time. One thing though that I notice is like the more advanced I get, the more things I kind of experiment with, and if I experiment with something, like I'll see a little bit more growth or exponential growth during a certain time frame where I start doing that thing. So I do think Albert Nunes talked about this too, where there's going to be phases in your training where you see quite large progress, and there's going to be different phases where you don't see quite as much. You're stalling out, or maybe you're dealing with a little nagging injury, where it's just a little bit slower. But so it's going to be a little bit more up and down rather than just like straight linear, or like where it's like kind of coming off and flattening out. Like I feel like it's still going to be have some bumps in the road when it comes to the progress. Uh, but yeah, like for somebody like naturally, yeah, the first 5 years is definitely going to be where you're seeing the most out of your training. Over the course of 10 years, it started to slow down a bit more. And then once you get into like 20 years, I'm sure it'll start to slow down a little bit more. And then like 30 years, like that's probably where you are getting, especially if you're kind of staying up to date with the research, doing like everything quite well. That's probably where you're gonna notice, okay, like if I can gain like 1 pound of muscle mass in a year, like that's pretty crazy. So like, yeah, like 30 years is probably gonna, I would say for most people, is gonna be like, okay, like, you might be able to make some change, but it's gonna be very, very small. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so what we're just trying to say is just give it at least 5 years in order to think about um, hopping on anything at all. If you've been training more than 5 years, we would suggest you look into other training aspects or variations, like play around, talk to other people, train with us to see if we can change your mind.
Yeah.
Then, before actually hopping into that, into going down that road. We're not 100% against it, but we're just more confident in what you can achieve more naturally. So we have our bias, you can say that. But going back to what this episode was actually about is just genetics is something we always preach is now bodybuilding and something is a very big thing that we like to compare each other from others. Now, you can't compare your genetic to others because there's just no comparison. You're genetically born that way. We just want to make this very clear that try not to compare yourself. It's a very dangerous route. So let's not try to go there. Focus on how we can just help you in being just the best version of yourself. That's basically what we all can ask. But we've talked about a good couple of case studies. We've talked about Will, we've talked about Tristan, we've talked about who else have we talked about? We talked about David Lade, we've talked about Jeff Seid. So we've talked about people like in the game who's got really, really good genetics. So I encourage you to leave in the comment section or just DM us who do you think has the best genetics in the game. We'd like to know on who you guys think of it. Let's say natural or non-natural, doesn't matter. We would like to see it. Comment down below if you and DM us some photos if you want. If you want us to assess, what your potential may be, we're more than happy to do that. But what we're just trying to also add is just yes, genetics does matter in bodybuilding, but consistently the work ethic and I think that matters for what we're trying what was Brandon is just trying to say is just focus on controllables. Your training, it has to be consistent, your diet has to be consistent, your mindset has got to be just in the right spot.
You don't have to be absolutely like perfect. Like with body, like you want to play it for the long game. Like natural bodybuilding is you have to be in it for the long game. So there are times where you kind of dial that switch up, and there's times where you dial it back a little bit, just so you can keep going throughout. If you're trying to be absolutely perfect your whole 30 years, you'll likely burn out in those first 5 6 years and have a hard time getting back into it. So I find having like that little dial switch to like time periods, especially in prep, like dialing it right up. In your off season, like if you have like a deload or if you have like a week off or something, pulling back a little bit is totally fine. But just being consistent throughout, like making sure that you're not going like months without training, going just months like having super low protein and stuff. Like though you can get muscle back quite quick with like muscle memory, with all their scientific research around that. Like it's definitely a thing. But I would try to stay as consistent as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. But before we wrap this up, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, man. I think that's everything, dude.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good episode here. But so if you guys liked the episode, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Instagram and subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment on anywhere on YouTube or on the comment section below as we talked about any good genetics and athletes that you know in the game. We're more than happy to share and follow us on IG. And that's will be all for today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Okay. See you
Bye.
guys.